Kia ora, Year 9. This video is going to show you how to find the gradient. I'm making it to go along with the Education Perfect task that some of you are finding quite tricky, and I've had some requests to say could I go over it one more time. So this is video 1, and in this one I'm going to look just at how we find the gradient when it's positive. Right, so first of all, what is the gradient? Well, the gradient tells us how steep a line is. The gradient is one number. And so we're going to see some different gradients in the next slide, and then we're going to figure out how do we find one when we're given a line. So just some examples of gradients. We might have a gradient of 2, or we might have a gradient of negative 1/2, or we might have a gradient of 0. We're going to get to that in a later video. But the gradient is one number. When I've got a line, you might remember from class that we talked about the intercept, the y-intercept, and we talked about the gradient. Now the gradient is not the whole of the 2x. The gradient is just going to be the 2 in there. But I'm not even going to talk about all of that in this video. And I'm not going to talk about the y-intercept either, except to remind you that this tells us how far up or down the set of axes my line is sitting, right? But it doesn't tell us about the steepness of the line. So the steepness of the line comes from this number here, and we're going to have a look at it now. So these are all different lines, and they've got different gradients. All of them have got positive gradients. So how do I know that without doing any calculations? Well, we kind of have a feeling for gradient by the time we're, I don't know, 5 or 6, and you can think of this as if you start on this side and you move towards this side, then you're going up the hill, right? So this line here, this would be a very horrible hill to walk up. This is a very steep gradient. So this gradient, I think I made this gradient about 7, right? This one here, that I'm drawing in now without a straight line, is not as bad to walk up, right? But it's still going up the hill. I think that number was about 3. These ones are pretty gentle, right? So that's a gentle hill. That gradient's going to be lower. And then these gradients here are very gentle, but still positive. Right, so these ones are going to be fractions. So this gradient is 1/2, and this has a gradient of 1/4. So where did those numbers come from? Well, we'll get to that. Now, if we've got lines where we're going what we think of as down the hill when we're walking in this direction, then they have negative gradients. So this one would be a pretty horrible hill to walk down. This is a very steep but negative gradient, so that one is -7. I think this gradient was -1. And this one is -1/4, right? But they're all negative numbers. So how do we do it? Well, to find the gradient, we use what we call the blobby points. And the gradient we write as m. And m is equal to the change in y values divided by the change in x values. Now that looks quite hard, but it really, really isn't. We often say that it's the rise divided by the run. The trouble with this is we don't really know, what do we mean by run? Well, the run means the horizontal change, and the rise is the vertical change. So we're saying the up and down change compared to the across change. So when we're trying to find the gradient, what we have to do is we start by finding the blobby points, and we've done this in class. It doesn't matter which 2 you pick. Here, I'm going to pick one blobby point here. So by blobby points, I mean points that are sitting on the grid, on the corners of the grid, right? Not this. That there, this thing here, is not a blobby point, right? So that's bad. We never want to try and use a point like that to find the gradient. So here we've got a blobby point here, and the blobby point there is called 0, is at 0, 3, and we might label that point A. Now, I can find lots of other blobby points. I'm going to use this one up here, and this is what I'm going to call blobby point B. And B has got coordinates 2, 7. So now what I have to ask is to get from A here up to B here, how far out do I go? And then how far up do I go? So instead of going directly from A to B, we're going to make a right angle triangle. First we're going to go out to here, and then we're going to go up to here, and we're going to try and draw that without going too wobbly. Right, so we're drawing in that triangle, and that's the key to finding the gradient. Now, we look at this point here, this one here, and we say, okay, how did I get from A out to here? Well, I went out 2. And then how did I get from this point here up to point B here? Well, I went up 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so my gradient in this example, m, is equal to, how far out did I go? Well, I went out 2. How far up did I go? I went up 4. So now I've got 4 divided by 2. So my gradient here is 2. Now, does that make sense? Let's think back to that first graph. Here are all my lines with positive gradients. The ones that were really bad to walk up, really steep to walk up, had the biggest numbers, right? So this one here had a number of 7. This one had a number of 1. I'm pretty sure this one had a gradient of 2 or 3, but I actually can't remember. But let's look at our one. So we've found here that the line had a gradient of 2. That makes sense. This line is quite steep, and we're going up the hill. So that's our first example. We're going to do some more, and we're going to do them at about this speed. So if you're watching this and you really don't like it, please don't thumb it down. Just go and get into the Education Perfect. But for most of you, I want you to keep watching and do all of these examples with me. Right, here's the next one. I'm going to find a couple of blobby points. So this time I'm going to pick this one here and this one here. I'm doing that because I want to show you that we don't have to pick the y-intercept. We can pick it, but we don't have to. So here's my first one, and here's my second one. So let's draw in our out and up triangle. Here we go. We go out like that, and then we go up like that. And now we count. How many places did we go this way? 1, 2, 3, 4. So we went out 4. So my gradient m, which is my rise over my run, has got 4 as the bottom number in the fraction. Now from here, how did I get up from here up to here? Well, I went up 2. 1, 2. So the rise is going to be 2. So that's 2 divided by 4. Now we need to simplify that fraction, which all of you can do well, so that's equal to 1/2. So m is 1/2. Now notice that makes sense. We've still got a positive gradient because we're going up the hill, but this hill would be quite not steep at all to walk up. So the gradient is a fraction, and it's a fraction that's less than 1, so m is equal to 1/2 for that one. Right, next one. I want you to pause the video, and I want you to try and figure out where you would put the blobby points. Your blobby points won't be the same as mine. Okay, for this one, I'm going to pick this blobby point, and then I can't go there or there. I'm going to pick this blobby point. Now I'm going to draw in my out and up triangle. So I go out and then up. Okay, how far out did I go? I went 1 out to get to here. And then I went 1, 2, 3 up to get from here up to here. So m is equal to the rise over the run. And that's giving me 3 for the rise and 1 for the run. Now, I did that badly because when you do this, I want you to remember, well, the way I always do it is I always start with the run first. So it's going to be 1 here, and it's going to be 3 here. But I don't leave it like that. 3 divided by 1, no one goes around saying 3 divided by 1. We just say the gradient is equal to 3. Next one. Okay, 2 blobby points. This time I'm going to show you that it doesn't matter if you pick them back here. So I'm going to pick this point here, and some of you will be going, oh, negative numbers, but it doesn't matter, right? So blobby point there, and there are lots and lots of blobby points here. I'm going to pick this one all the way out here. So we do our out and up triangle. We go out here, we go up here. Now I'm going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So m is equal to rise over run. So I have 5 in the bottom line, and here I'm going from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Right, so some of you are probably sitting there going, why did she pick the 5 and the 5? Because it's just the same as 5 divided by 5, which is 1. The easier way to do it would have been to pick a point like this, and then to pick another point like this, right? So out 1, up 1. It doesn't matter where I go as long as I'm picking the blobby points. Next one, and then you're going to do some yourself. Right, well, I forgot to put the whole grid thing in here, but it doesn't matter. I'm not finding the equation of the line. I'm finding the gradient. So I need 2 blobby points. We'll pick this one here, and then I'm going to look for the next one, and it's out here. So what have we got? Right, draw the out and up triangle, out and then up. Right, so M is equal to the rise over the run. So we've gone 1, 2, 3, 4. The run is going to be 4, and the rise is going to be 1. Right, let's take a look at that. Can we simplify our fraction? No, we can't. And does it make sense? Yes, it makes lots of sense, because I'm going up the hill and I'm not going up too steep a hill. So the number is a fraction that's between 0 and 1. Now, I've got 4 minutes left before the video runs out. Thank you if you're still watching. I want you to do these ones. So I've got about 5 new ones coming up. Pause the video and have a go at it. Okay, so the next 2. Right, here are my blobby points. 2 here and 4 here. So M is equal to 1 on the bottom line, 2 on the top line, also called the numerator for the top line and the denominator for the bottom line. So there we are, out 1, up 2. Don't leave it as 2 over 1, simplify it to M equals 2. Next one, blobby point here, next blobby points here. So I'm going out 1, and I'm going from here up to here. Now you might be starting to get sick of counting by this point, I hope. So you've got 1 here, and you've got 6 here. So all you have to do is figure out that that difference is 5. So M is equal to 5 over 1, which is 5. 2 more coming up. Pause the video and have a go. Don't worry about the negative numbers. They don't really make it much worse. Here we go. We've got a blobby point here, and we've got a blobby point here. M is equal to how far out? So let's draw in our triangle for this one. Out to here, and then up to here. What am I doing? Well, here we've gone from here out to here. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we've gone from here up. We've gone up 4, 2, 3, 4. So 4 divided by 4 gives me a gradient of 1. Last one, and then we'll move on to some negative gradients. So I'm here. Here's my first blobby point. Here's my next blobby point. Draw in the out and then up triangle. What do we get? Well, we get M is equal to 1, 2, 3 for the run, and then up 1 there. My fraction is 1/3. I can't simplify, so I'm done. Right, if you've watched this far, well done, guys. That's really, really good concentrating. Make sure that you've got some of this down in your book, and make sure you go back and really do this yourselves instead of just watching me do it. And now you should be able to do the first part of the Education Perfect task on gradients, which is just the positive ones. So get that sorted out first, and then we'll come back and look at the negative ones. Thanks for watching.